All right, so this is going to be a deck profile over the deck that I took for the Yugizuna tournament. That was a 7 round Swiss. I'm actually, yeah, Swiss, I guess would be the right way to say it, but Swiss tournament with around 15 players total. I think one dropped out kind of midway through, and then one was disqualified in the last round. But this is going to be the deck profile for that. So what we have here is just, I'm not going to go really in depth on this because I did already kind of make a video on this deck, but I will kind of do a quick coverage of this. And then what I'm going to do is go over each round of my 7 rounds of Swiss, each match, and go over the games for those because they were online. So I have the replays for them. But what we have here is just a very traditional small zombie package. I ended up going with 3 Ryukokis instead of the one Spirit Reaper, just because I feel like Spirit Reaper is pretty underwhelming overall. It's a nice zombie target, and it can be summoned, unlike Ryukoki, like summoned right away, so it's less bricky. But what it does is fairly underwhelming, like especially against like Chaos Turbo, where it just kind of sits there on the field, just waiting to get banished by a Chaos monster most of the time, or just even hit by a Raigeki break where they discard something that's free, like a Thunder Dragon or a Sinister Serpent. So it's not like a great value card, I don't feel like. Now, I do have it in the side deck just because it is really good against aggro matchups, but I didn't feel like it was worthy of a main deck spot. And then the rest of the deck here is just kind of like a flip package. So we have the 3 Slate Warriors here. Those are combined with like the Night Assailants to give Night Assailant a flip monster to target if it's discarded, because zombies typically do run some discard cards just to get Ryukoki in the graveyard a lot of times, or any zombie, but mostly Ryukoki. So that way it can be a Book of Life target, because in hand he kind of just sits there and is a brick a lot of times, unless you're like maybe running Brain Controller or something. And then like a Regeki Break. I had Thunder Lightning Vortex in the main, which I think was a mistake. I don't think I needed Lightning Vortex. I should have just had the 2 Tribute to the Dooms and 1 Regeki Break. That was something I changed. Oh, I forgot to mention too. I forgot to add Delinquent Duo into this deck, so that should be in this deck. When we get to the end of all of my rounds and stuff, I'll show an updated version of this deck of what I think, just based on my games and stuff, what would be a more ideal build for this deck. This isn't terrible. Like, it's not much different than this, but there is a couple of things that I learned. Like, I mean, definitely Delinquent Duo in the main deck, but I learned that Lightning Vortex in the main was not necessary. It was kind of just a bad choice. But with the flips here, we also have the 2 Gravekeeper Spies. That's it's nice not only just to have a card, because like it's a basically a free plus if you do resolve the effect, and then it's a good tribute fodder for Ryukoki if you do have one in hand. But it's also nice that if it gets knocked, that it'll kill off your opponent's GK spies as well, and that helps Slate Warrior a lot because it's only at 1900, so it opens up the field to kind of get a little bit more aggro. This is like it's weird because it's kind of like a hybrid of like aggro but like a little bit of control. It's because like you do have these beaters here, and then you've got beaters with the Ryukokis that you're trying to recruit with the Pyramid Turtles. So you do like a lot of face up summoning and attack, but they still have to keep Nobleman Crossouts in their decks because they can't give up like Magician of Faith flips and stuff, or they don't want to give up like the Gravekeeper Spies. But really, like all you don't really set Slate Warrior, because if you set like your first Slate Warrior and it gets knocked, you just lose all of them, which is a huge blow. But you can set Magician of Faith and you can set Gravekeeper Spy, no problem, because if they do get knocked, they're not a huge loss, but then you're also making your opponent lose those cards as well. So I mean, they can't not have Nobleman Across Out, but Nobleman Across Outing your monsters is usually bad. Like the only thing that they kind of gain from like good hits, I guess, on Nobleman Across Out would be like Sinister Serpent if you set that, which a lot of times I won't even set Sinister Serpent just because of that. Um, Night Assailant, I mean, they lose theirs too, but yours is a little bit more valuable because you're getting back stuff that you want to be aggressive with a lot of times. Most of the time, it's going to be Slate Warrior. You don't really take back Gravekeeper Spy a lot of times because if one is in the graveyard, it's probably there because the effect resolved. The only time you take it back is if it went to the graveyard without resolving its effect, because you only run 2 of them. And then you just got your standard cards like your staples, like the Breaker and Tribe, which goes hand in hand with the discards. Um, here, that works really well with just your flip package. It's not so much the Great Beaver Spy, but just stuff like Magician of Fate and Night Assailant if you do end up setting one, or it just works really well with like Slate Warrior and being able to use its flip effect to boost its attack up to 2400. It's also just good against killing things that like your warriors that have monsters with only 1,000 defense, or against Thousand Eyes Restrict. I've thought about cutting Tsukiyomi at times, but then other times I'm just like it's kind of just too good to not cut. Like it just works too well with like this flip package. So I had his left it in. And then you're just basically staple cards here. You got your noblemen's. I ran 2 Book of Life. You could maybe cut this down to 1, but because we are running 3 Ryukoki, it gives you more like solid Book of Life targets. You're not bringing back like a Spirit Reaper that's just like, okay, well, I'm just bringing this back just to protect my life points and not lose the game. Like with Ryukoki, you're probably going to be going aggressive and like pushing the game forward. So it's kind of a better Book of Life target. We don't have any mummies though, so it's only 6 Book of Life targets, and we don't have giant rats to help get those pyramid turtles like searched out quickly and like active. So 2 Book of Life might be a little bricky, but I think it's worthwhile. 2 Tribute to the Doomed, a Lightning Vortex. If I was going to update this deck right now, I would just swap out Lightning Vortex for Zlingo Duo and then put Lightning Vortex down in the side deck, because it is a good card against stuff that runs scapegoats or aggro decks that summon all the time face up monsters. Like if you're going up against like Earth aggro or against warriors, they summon everything face up attack mode. So at that point, you might as well just switch out 1 Tribute to the Doomed with a Lightning Vortex, in my opinion, just because there might be situations where they do have 2 monsters out in the field and you can get better value out of the Lightning Vortex than the Tribute to the Doomed. Book of Life really works well. A lot of times it will just save your Ryokoki from getting banished by like a Chaos Sorcerer, which is really nice. And then you just have your flips that you can pair this with. A lot of times it's just going to be like Magician of Faith or Night Assailant, but you can sometimes do it with Slate Warrior as well, just to set it and flip it back up and boost it up to 2400 so it can beat over something. And then the rest of it's all staple. Just 1 Raigeki Break. You could maybe argue for having 2 and like maybe 1 less Tribute to the Doomed, but the Tribute to the Doomed, because you don't have to wait for it to set and activate it, allows you to be a little more aggressive. Now the bad part is that this only can target monsters, whereas Raigeki Break can target both, so it's a bit more versatile. But I think 1 Tribute or 1 Raigeki Break is fine. Like I said, it is a little bit slower just because you do have to set it for a turn and then wait. And then plus we do have like Royal Decree in the side deck along with Jinzo, so we don't want to have too many traps in the main deck so that we can bring in those anti-traps side deck cards. Call, yeah, these are all just standard stuff. I think 3 trap dash shoot's pretty mandatory just because your matchup against Chaos Turbo is pretty bad with this deck. That's something that I kind of learned playing the deck more. When I first put this together, I didn't know. I kind of felt like Chaos Turbo was going to be a tough matchup, but it is quite tough, especially if they're running Phoenix Wing Blast, because Phoenix Wing Blast really hurts Ryukoki. Not only do you just take it off the field, so like it's not in the graveyard to be a Book of Life target, and it's not in your hand to be like a discard. Like it's just you're gonna dead draw it. Like you're gonna draw it, and then if you don't have any way to get it out into the field or do anything with it, it's just a complete dead draw. So Phoenix Wing Blast, like really, really bad for Ryukoki here. Raigeki Break isn't anywhere near as bad because it just goes to the graveyard. You still get to draw, and then you have it as a Book of Life target. And then the side deck, just Jinzo. I really like Jinzo a lot. I've been putting in a lot of decks just because like Warriors runs like 15 traps nowadays, and summoning Jinzo, a lot of times I find that it can just be enough to just win the game. Like they're at a situation where like their number of outs to Jinzo is like 4 or 5 cards. It's like Snatch Steal, DD Warrior Lady, Exiled Force, BLS if it's live, and then like Tribe Infecting Virus. So they got like 5 outs to Jinzo in their entire deck, and then depending on how many they've already gone through. Now they can also solemn Jinzo, which if on the summon. But if they do, because you are running Call the Haunted and Premature Burial both in this deck, you have ways to get Jinzo back that can cause issues for them as well. 3 King Tiger, this works really great against control matchups. That's just something that I found with like running Earth aggro, is that like King Tiger is just such a huge versatility card. The bad thing about this though is pairing it with the zombies is that it kind of cucks your pyramid turtles, so you end up having to set those instead of just being able to normal summon them. And setting them sucks because then it makes it so that they can get knocked. But the rest of your, under 1500 attack monsters really don't care that much. Like the only other thing that you would really want to like normal summon that's under 1500 be like Tsukiyomi, I guess, which you don't really need Tsukiyomi that badly. Uh, Cyberjar was just a meme card that I put in the side deck. I don't think I ever brought it in or used it. Spirit Reaper, that was just like I said for the aggro matchups. I think Swords is not needed in the side deck. I think I cut that when I updated this deck. Brain Control, there's an argument to be made for having like actually like even one Brain Control in the main deck just because of the three Ryukokis. Also because it is kind of an aggro-ish deck that a Brain Control can be quite versatile and just summoning a Slate Warrior, taking an opponent's monster and attacking directly and just trying to push for game that way. But like I said, this deck does struggle a lot with Chaos Turbo, and Brain Control is a bad card against Chaos Turbo because most of what they do is just setting. So I'm not entirely sold on it, but it is something to think about, I think. Another Book of Moon, this goes well just against like Chaos Control and Goat Control for setting those Thousand Eyed Restricts. Plus, it just pairs well with like your Flip Effect monsters, so it's a really easy side in. Blocks for burn. Got the Sakus for the aggros. Tribute to or turns to tributes in the side. I don't want it in the main because we are kind of playing like recruiters and stuff. So I feel like it's not very well paired in the main. Plus, like we want to get Ryukoki out. We don't want to kill it ourselves. We want our opponent to kill it so that they spend a card on killing it and then bring it back with Book of Life and then making them have to use another card, even if they have one, to get rid of it. And then one Royal Decree. I think I would have upped the Royal Decrees to 2, just because like I talked about Phoenix Wing Blast being such a huge problem. Like if in the turbo matchup, if you get a Koiki hit with a Phoenix Wing Blast and set on top of your deck, it's almost like game losing at that point. Like it sets you so far behind. It's ridiculous. But that's the rundown of the deck, and then we'll get into the replays and kind of go over how those went and just kind of I'll tell you right now, I made a ton of mistakes playing this deck. This is the first time playing really zombies, but also even like this style of like kind of like a flip control package. So I missed some Sinister Serpents. I missed like I think I missed a Call of the Haunted on a Sandgan when it was getting destroyed. Like they summoned Breaker to destroy my Call of the Haunted, and I didn't think to activate it and bring back Sandgan and then use Sandgan's effect. Like I definitely made some misplays with this, but it's a learning experience and we can kind of go through it and it'll be fun. So that'll be all for this video.